SkanHolz has been well known since 1979 for its many varieties of do-it-yourself timber construction kits. The following video describes the construction of a carport that was designed by the owner himself using our online configurator. This carport is different from the standard models in the catalog. It was designed completely individually using the owner's planning specs and built as a unique item. More elaborate timber joints than in the standard area, such as mortise-and-tenon joints, are a matter of course. Depending on your needs, you can choose different ornamentation of wooden components, walls, diagonal crosses, rooms, windows, doors, color treatments, and post shoes. Once the online plan is ready, you can print the relevant documents and place an order at the shop using the automatically generated plan number. You can also use the hard copies to ask the building department about any building permits you may require before making your purchase. Of course, if you aren't particularly skilled in crafts, you're also welcome to use our assembly service. The individual assembly price is also part of any offer. Since the production of the carport can take up to 6 weeks, you can use that time to prepare the ground and the foundation. We can send the post shoes you order for the kit in advance free of charge. Once we have checked the plan for its feasibility and sent the order confirmation to the retailer, we will send the construction documents by mail to the delivery address. You can use the foundation plan included to prepare the different foundation elements and set the post shoes in concrete. That way you will be able to start on the construction as soon as the building kit arrives without having to take extra time waiting for the concrete to fully harden. The assembly instructions provide information on the position and size of the foundations. The foundation elements carry the wooden structure and distribute forces such as wind and snow loads to the ground below. It is important that they are frost-proof and sufficiently large. This is the only way to guarantee that they will be fully able to carry their load, and be careful to pay attention to the exact alignment of the individual post shoes. Recheck all measurements before the concrete fully hardens, including the diagonal. That way you can make sure that everything is square. Delivery in Germany is by a 44-ton truck and accompanying forklift. Please make sure when you order your carport that your driveway is accessible. When the kit is delivered, we recommend that you unpack it and check all parts for completeness against the packing list, which you will find on the outside of the package. Until they are needed for construction, you should store all parts level, dry, and out of the sun. That way they won't get damaged in the interim. And don't forget to protect your new carport against moisture and destructive fungi or insects by using impregnating agents and varnishes. It's best to treat the individual parts before construction starts, up to the thin coat of varnish. That way you can be sure that all parts of a timber are adequately protected, even those that will not be visible later. Or you can choose the color pretreatment option in the configurator. This saves you a lot of time, and the wooden parts are fully finished and ready for construction. The carport we want to build today is a gable roof carport of solid structural spruce timber with 4 3/4 inch, 12 centimeter thick posts, post shoes for setting in concrete that were sent in advance, gable trim and gable cover with 3/4 inch, 19 millimeter weatherboarding walls, 1 room, double doors, and an additional window. All timber parts were ordered from the factory primed in light oak. Black bitumen shingles were chosen for the roofing, together with plastic rain guttering on both sides. When the foundation elements have completely cured, nothing more stands in the way of construction. The basic plan for assembly is provided by the instructions that are also included with the kit. You will find these in an accessory package marked accordingly. The instructions explain step by step how the individual parts are brought together to make the finished carport. The manual itself is based on graphical representations. The individual steps are backed up by illustrations, and you will also find helpful tips here and there in writing. Start the construction by pre-sorting the parts according to cross-section and length. This will give you a better overview of the usually large number of individual parts. To make them easier to identify, the posts, purlins, rafters, and head straps are marked with numbers in places that will be out of sight later on. First, set the corner posts so that they stand upright in the post shoes. You can fix them temporarily, for example, using bar clamps. Another tip at this point: if the ground slopes at all, or there is any variation in the levels of the foundation elements, you can get an accurate height alignment for the intermediate posts by first aligning the corner posts to plumb vertical, and then using a bricklayer's string line marking the required lengths of the middle posts. After sawing to length, treat the cut ends with varnish. Color-treated kits always include some varnish in the package for repairs. Check the exact alignment and separation of posts once again before drilling and inserting screws. The posts can then be screwed to the post shoes. Drill into the posts from both sides with a diameter 1 millimeter greater than that of the screws. After tightening the screws, you can start to install the purlins or longitudinal beams. Start on one side, adjusting post by post until all the tenons are sitting in their mortises. Then secure the joint by hammering. Use either a tapping block or a rubber cap to protect the surface of the wood from damage. The holes for the wooden pegs that fix the mortise and tenon joints are already pre-drilled at the factory. The wooden pegs are easier to knock in if the hole is drilled again. They are also lightly waxed at the factory, which makes them even easier to knock in. Now, use the bricklayer's line to adjust the posts for the partition walls. Carry over the distance down the post between the line and the start of the flat portion, cut it to length, align it, and secure it with screws. Now you can begin constructing the roof. Joist structures are placed centrally over the posts. These form the bases for the supports for the central purlin. Mark the final position over the posts on the upper surface of the purlin. Determine the external spacing of the purlins and transfer this measurement to the underside of horizontal members or joists. You can now place the joists between the two markings, align them, and secure them with screws. When making the alignment, be aware that a rafter still has to fit between each pair of joists. Using the 6 mm drill bits supplied, make pilot holes in the joists and attach them with fully threaded screws. These screws are not lag screws. The rafters must lie firmly on the purlins when you screw them on. The advantage of fully threaded screws is that the joint will always be uniformly stable. Even when the wood dries, and this results in a reduction of the timber cross-section, the joint will always be fully load resistant. The middle purlin supports can now be installed, aligned, and fixed in place using screws. Like the lateral purlins before, the ridge purlin can now be adjusted tenon by tenon and then secured with wooden pegs. Starting from the lateral purlins, calculate the spacing between the inclined rafters and mark these distances on the ridge purlin. You will be able to identify the rafters which will be laid between the joists by the holes drilled at the bottom. The 3 rafters are screwed with threaded bolts at the lowest point. At the top, the rafters are secured by fully threaded screws down to the ridge purlin. Then install the remaining rafters following the instructions. Optionally, the gables can be vertically paneled with smooth-edged boards. In this case, the support beams are first adjusted to the sloping rafters and then screwed directly to them. Once again, don't forget to drill the pilot holes. The board cladding consists of 2 layers of boards installed with an offset between them. The gaps between the boards are each 8 centimeters. Starting from the middle, screw the boards vertically into place. The 2 middle boards also require a cutout where they meet the middle purlin. Then simply add the boards one by one with gaps of 8 centimeters. Place the screws near the outer edges of the boards in the first layer so that the second layer hides the screws. And of course, don't forget the pilot holes. This is made easier by using an 8 centimeter wide guide block fitted with a screw at the bottom to keep it at an even height above the joist. Once the first layer is in place, carry over the upper edge of the rafters to the front side of the boards and cut off the excess. You can rework the trims later in the process. Proceed in exactly the same way with the second row of boards. Drill recesses from behind using a Forstner bit where the nuts have to go. Now screw the ornamental stays into place. The roof frame is now ready for preparing the guttering and subsequently covering with boards. Here the guttering is fixed using hooks for embedding. For this, recesses have to be cut into the bottom ends of the rafters. The 2 outermost hooks are fastened first. Pay attention here to the slope in the direction of drainage. The middle hooks can be perfectly aligned by use of the bricklayer's line. However, the roof still has to be completed before the guttering is inserted. The roofing boards are screwed directly onto the rafters. Let the first board at the bottom of the eaves hang 1 to 2 centimeters over the ends of the rafters so that water will later flow easily into the guttering. Then simply assemble the next few boards using their tongue and groove joints. Align them, screw them down, you're done. Continue in this way, row by row, toward the top. At the ridge, you have to fit the last boards in. The ends of the roofing boards are then joined together using square-edged timbers. These also provide the base for attaching the gable trim. The roof is now ready for the roofing shingles. Start at the eaves with one of the strips of roofing bitumen provided. Let this overhang by 2 centimeters again. This provides the edge of the eaves. Now lay the first row of shingles normally. offset the next row sideways by half a shingle so that no water flows into the joint between the shingles underneath. This also creates the typical layering pattern. Following this pattern, offsetting a half shingle to the left and then a half to the right, you cover the whole roof area up to the ridge. Also make sure there is a sufficient vertical offset. The shingle manufacturer's laying instructions will give you information about this. Otherwise, there will be too few shingles if the rows are too closely packed. Cut off the excess from below with a knife. Secure from above with an offcut of board. Use another bitumen strip to provide coverage at the ridge. Now the front side of the roof structure is covered with the gable trim. Attach this to the square edge timbers that were screwed under the ends of the roofing boards. Now the roof is ready for fitting the guttering. This is put together using connectors to join the individual sections, previously cut to the required length. Silicone sealing hoses make the joints watertight. The left and right end pieces are simply pushed on and sealed with silicone to finish. The downpipe is also put together from pipe ends and lengths using silicone sealing hoses. The downpipe is fixed to the post by pipe clamps and can then also be connected to the drains. The walls of our carport are of horizontal weatherboarding and consist of vertical trim that is fixed to the posts, to which the weatherboards are then screwed directly. The visible screws on the weatherboards are then finally covered again with a vertical trim. This creates an uncluttered appearance on both sides of the wall and reduces the number of visible screws to a minimum. Offsets due to post shoes and joints between different wood cross sections can be compensated for accordingly in the vertical trims as well as in the horizontal weatherboards. The last board at the top of the sidewall is also trimmed on site to the required width. Now it's time to fit the doors and windows. The double door frame is delivered as individual components to save space. It is put together and the mortising fixed from behind by a screw. Now place the finished door frame between the designated posts and precisely align the sides. Mark the intended screw positions in the frame. Use the 6mm drill bit to make pilot holes for the full length of the screw, and then fix it firmly to the posts using fully threaded screws. Then, hang the door leaves and adjust the distance between the leaves if necessary by using the adjustable hinges. The door is equipped with a lock cylinder. First, put the key into the lock cylinder, turn it very slightly, and then insert the cylinder into the lock. Secure it with the accompanying screw and test to make sure it locks and unlocks. If it does not lock freely, loosen the locking screw again and adjust the position of the cylinder until the lock operates smoothly. Now, unscrew the escutcheons on both sides and insert the handle through the lock so that the small grub screw is located on the inside of the door. Tighten it slightly. Finally, make good the area above the door using the supplied trims and wall cladding boards. The optional window can be installed in any wall that you choose. First, mark up the intended position on the wall cladding boards. Take the cutout dimensions from the construction documents. Then, saw the cutout into the wall using a handheld circular saw, and then finish the cuts in the corners using a handsaw. Clean the cut edges, sand the edges smooth, and treat them with varnish. Frame timbers are fitted from the inside around the cutout. They stabilize the wall around the cutout and the window is screwed directly to them. In addition, weatherproofing aluminum angle plates are included for the top and bottom of the window. Screw the upper plate directly onto the frame timber above from inside before inserting the window. The window is delivered fully assembled. Remove the window casement before fitting the frame. This can now be placed in the opening, aligned, drilled with pilot holes according to the instructions, and fixed with screws. Fit the casement again, and then attach the window handle. The window is manufactured as a tilt and turn window. Using the internally visible fittings, you can either open it normally or tilt it for continuous ventilation. Finish off by attaching the second aluminum plate to the bottom of the frame. There, it prevents water from getting between the window and the wall. The carport is now fully assembled. The acrylic-based primer applied at the factory protects the wood against ultraviolet light and wood-destroying fungi and insects. A final coating must now be applied to all visible surfaces. This provides optimum protection for the wood against any weather conditions that may occur. We recommend using a thick layer of varnish, also acrylic-based. When you purchase the varnish, make sure it has adequate UV protection. Please check its compatibility with the primer on a part of a structure that will not be visible after. Please see the varnish manufacturer's technical information for instructions on use and the maintenance time between coats. Regular upkeep will be needed as varnishes are subject to constant weathering and their coating thickness diminishes. The intervals depend on the product and also on location. Varnish should be reapplied before the surface begins to turn gray. That way you will have many years of pleasure from your carport. Of course, we would be happy to help you and advise you on any questions before, during, and also after construction. Our service staff will be glad to take your call. And of course, you can also send us an email with your questions, suggestions, or any requests. We look forward to working with you.